Okay, so uh, good evening all. So we have actually introduced investment appraisal, and from what we have done so far, or what we have looked at, the cash flow was provided for us. In a typical examination situation, ICANN will never provide cash flows. The last work we saw here, what we handled here, we had different arrangements for cash flow. We saw cash flow, differentiated cash flows for different years, 2000, 25, 3000, 35 for different years. We have seen a scenario where cash flows, the cash is the same, the cash flow is the same for every year for some years, 4 years. We've seen that kind of scenario. We've seen cash flow flowing from year one to forever. In a typical examination situation, unnaturally, you have to determine the cash flow. And how will you determine the cash flow? You have revenue, you have variable costs, you have fixed costs, you have initial outlay, you have tax issues, you have working capital, etc. From all of these, you can even be two other costs. From all of these, you will compute your cash flow. So everything we are dealing with right now is the cash flow issues. We want to solve the cash flow problem because I told you that for investment appraisal, like every other valuation, you give three basic elements. One, the cash flow. Two, the discount factor. And three, the time. So we want to solve the cash flow problem. Now, it should also be noted that it is not every cash flow that is considered in investment appraisal. It is not every cash flow that is considered in investment appraisal. So we'll take care of. So in determining the cash flow, you have to determine the cash flow that is relevant to investment appraisal. Now that is what we call relevant cash flow. So we start by talking about relevant cash flows because it's not every cash flow that is relevant to decision making. Now this was tested FM, the very first diet. That is 2 diets ago. Question 1 is essentially on relevant cash flows. So to be honest with you, I am not thinking that this diet will ask questions on relevant cash flow. However, you need to know relevant cash flow. For SFM, the last time relevant cash flow was tested is November 2021. I took that exams. I took that particular exams and I qualified that diet. So that is just to make you know that this is something that is actually examinable. Now, another thing is that given that most people must have thought that ICANN will not set it, ICANN may decide to. I'm that kind of a person. If I think that you feel that a particular thing will not happen, I will just make it happen. So ICANN may be like me and try to test it, believing that most classes or students will have the feeling that it will not be examined. So we need to know it. So we are working on what? Relevant cash flow. I'm not this patient in handwriting and writing. I'm not this patient. So we are looking at relevant cash flow. Now, the first thing to note is that before anything qualifies, any cash flow, whether inflow or outflow, qualifies to be relevant. To be relevant. What is it relevant to? It is relevant to decision making. What makes a decision relevant for you to make? If you know that regardless what happens, if you have to embark on a journey from here to let's say Lagos, you will have to spend 250,000 naira. You don't have to call people to think about it. Call a meeting so that you can decide, because It is irrelevant. Are you getting me? The only way anything can be relevant is that when you think, when you analyze, at the end of the day, there will be a difference between what you actually thought you would and what will eventually become. Are you getting me? That is relevant. We can sit down here to say, oh, let's discuss how can we reduce our energy costs. Relevant. But if you know that regardless what you think, you will need that energy, and regardless how you analyze, you will still, it is what? Irrelevant. So relevance in relevant cash flow, it connotes a situation where a decision will influence future costs or future cash flows. So the implication is that if you consider anything, any cash flow to be relevant, it must, one, be futuristic. One, it must be what? Futuristic. Cash flow must be futuristic. It's not about the future. So if I spent 5,000 naira yesterday, what decision can I possibly make that will make that reverse? It is historical, it is sunk, it is past. So when you are looking at questions that relate to relevant cash flow, you will see things that relate to what has been spent, sunk. Are you getting me? The other thing you will likely see will be, oh, if it's not sunk, it is committed. You know, I talked with this class about committed costs, sunk costs, committed costs. So when you see committed, when you see sunk, know that these are not what? Relevant. Okay, sunk. You incurred an expense in the past, you paid for it in the past. It is what? Sunk. Committed is similar but not the same. Now, committed is this. Oh, I bought something yesterday. I did not pay for it. So the cash has not flowed. Cash flow means money will move. Are you getting me? So there has not been any what? Cash flow. But I know that when money is coming in the future, it is already committed to an obligation I have entangled myself in. Are you getting me? So that kind of cost is called committed. Or by way of legal arrangement, you went into a covenant with somebody or legal agreement with somebody such that something in the future is already committed to something else. It is already what? Committed. So such is committed cost. It's, look out for this because they will tell you if a company wants to go into this kind of investment, they've carried out research in the past and they have paid 2 million naira due to market buy an equipment. The equipment is 20 million naira. What is relevant is the equipment price 20 million, which they have not what? The one that they said they've done market research or whatever, whether they have paid or not, it is what? So that's one. Futuristic. The second is that it must be incremental. It must be what? Incremental, aside being futuristic. What do you mean by incremental? You employed somebody, the person's salary is 50,000 naira. I didn't expect my shadow to cast on the board, but I did check out for it. You don't be, stay, don't be. We just have to leave with this for now. I think, okay, I know the problem. No, this is fine. I need to just increase this to match that one. Now this one is no, it's not, that's not the problem. This one is shining brighter. That's because before the shadow was casting here. It's analysis. Analytic paralysis. Okay. Okay. So these are the two fundamental. Every kind of relevant cash flow must be screened through the lenses of it being futuristic and what? Incremental. So what I was talking about incremental, and I was like, okay, you have a firm and you have people employed, and there's somebody you are paying 50,000 naira. Now, the firm has a project somewhere, and you want to send this person there to work. You are not paying him anything what higher. In as much as you are not paying him anything higher, whether you take that job or not, you will still pay him his what? Salary. Is that okay? Now you've taken that job and he's going to do that job. Because what you pay to that man is what? Irrelevant. Why? Because whether you take that job or not, you will still pay him. Is that okay? Now, but if it happens that you take that job, and by virtue of taking that job and moving him there, you pay him something extra. That okay, to make him, motivate him to take that job and move over to that place, you pay him from 50, you pay him 70,000 naira. The incremental part now becomes what? Relevant. Only the incremental part of 20,000 becomes what? Relevant, and not the entire 70,000, because the 50 in it, you like it, you don't like it, you pay. Are you getting me? Relevant. Another thing to look out for is opportunity cost. Opportunity cost. These three things must be looked out for. Nothing adds to them. These three. Opportunity what? Cost. Okay. Let's also work with this man. This man was working at site A. And because of his importance at that site A, the site A was making profit of, let's say, 100,000 naira. And now there is another site that you have to work, and that is site B. You have now told this man, you are paying him 50,000. You have told him, please move to site B and help us. I'll give you 20,000 naira extra. Is that okay? Number one, incremental is what? 20,000. But this 100,000 is because this man was working here and is very, very experienced. So all this being equal, if this man lives here, even if you employ somebody, assuming, okay, let me not assume that you employ somebody. This man has moved to this place. Let me not assume we'll come to all of those intricacies when we look at labor. This man has left here. This unit will still, or this site will still function. But because he has left here, let's say the profits they were making dropped from 100,000 to 85,000. That means they lost what? 15,000. This 15,000 they lost is also relevant. When making decision, you think about, okay, what are we gaining here? Because if we move this man, we will lose 15,000. If you feel that maybe by giving him 20 plus losing that 15, you will get more from B. It's okay, let him go. Is that okay? Yes. Because the benefits exceed the what cost. But by and large, the point I'm making is that number one, for him to move, you will lose 15,000 naira here. It is relevant to decision making. You factor it in when you are making a decision. The number two thing is by moving him, you pay him extra what? 20,000. You factor it in making decision. So these three must be what? Considered. Having said that, we look at relevant cash flow from different elements. Number one will be material. Number two will be labor. These two are critical in relevant cash flow, relevant cost. So we look at it from number one, material. Now, there's a material I shared with you, not the material we want to talk about. There's a material I shared with you, that questions. Is that okay? And that 39 pages. Whatever I'm discussing here is on that material. Yes, okay, I'll post it. I think it was posted yesterday when you were here. That thing that you pick the question for. No, I'm not saying you should look at it. I don't like it when students look at materials when I'm talking. You know, if the material is for you, you have to use it before you begin to get distracted. Just focus. The way you are focused, I like it. Thank you. So that's the first thing. We are looking at what? Materials. Just give you conditions. Number one, there are this kind of materials that you regularly use. You use how? Regularly. I use markers regularly. So in organizations, there are certain materials you regularly use. Is that okay? When you have materials that you regularly use and you want to get their relevant cash flow, one, I am saying materials that are regularly used. For materials that are regularly used, their relevant cost or cash flow would be the replacement cost. The replacement what? Cost. What is replacement cost? This thing with the man, if I want to buy it today, how much I will use buy it outside from the outside market? The fair price currently, like how much I will buy it. Are you getting me? I'll give you practical illustrations. For Nigeria, we do this a lot. Somebody buy fuel. The fueling station operator filled his underground tanks yesterday, and he filled the tanks, buying from maybe Dangote for, let's say, 1,000 naira per liter. And suddenly the person heard information. Oh, Trump and the Iranians have started. Crude oil price will go up. What do you think the person will do? The person will not wait for you that, hey, let me sell all of this. Now you may say the person is maybe a shrewd business person, but the natural thing, you see, most of these things we do, you don't need to come school too much for you to know what to do when you're supposed to do what you're supposed to do. That's the truth. So the person will increase the price. Why? Because the person knows that, okay, let's say the price has now increased, and maybe when he bought it for 1,000 naira, he was selling it for, let's say, 1,100. Now the price is in the market, so let's say 1,500. He will not wait to exhaust what he has in his reservoir first. He will immediately sell as though he bought it for 1,000. He will not even sell 1,500. Why? Because if he sells at 1,500, it means that he's going back to buy exactly the same quantity he sold without profit. So if I brought it, I've not sold 1 unit. But if he now says, oh, I'm a good man, let me sell at 1,100, hoping to make 400 naira profit, 100 naira profit on each liter. Fine. Based on the price you bought it, you are making 100 naira profit. But this 100 naira, even the entire one cannot get you 1 liter when you want to buy. So you go with the replacement cost of the item. What? That is what defines it when they are regularly used. That's the first situation. The second situation is they are not regularly used. And have no alternative use. So if they have no, they are not regularly used and have what you use is the net what? Net what? Yeah, I heard this man was telling you, asking you, what is the FR man? I will talk about it too. Even here today, I'll talk about that same thing. I will not use carrying amount. I'll call it tax written down value. Under tax, because I told you we are supposed to do this and do tax and do possibly inflation. So this is our warehouse. We don't use it regularly. It can be there. In fact, the last